We kept the lights on for compromise. The first thing City Hall teaches you is that fluorescent lights make even good decisions look like paperwork. My name is Ian. I'm chief of staff to a council member who ran on the slogan, "Fix the boring things." The man I loved was Noah, an architect who thought curb extensions could reform human nature. We lived over a bakery that forgave late mornings with butter. On our fridge, we taped 3 rules on a curling index card. Be home when you say, don't rehearse breakups, kiss before sleep. We didn't write anything about public comment, developers with immaculate cufflinks, or lobbyists who know which dimmer to touch first. The project that undid me was a rezoning for a derelict bus depot on the river. If you love a city, you either love or hate depots. Either way, they teach you patience. The developer Hemley Group sent their brightest emissary to make the medicine an amenity. His name was Victor. He wore navy the way my grandmother used to wear incense, confidently, like absolution. He shook my hand at the pre-meeting and said, "Ian, you're the one who knows where all the doors are." I said, "I know who has the keys." He laughed like a glass of water you think is vodka. Noah met him at a design charrette because architects are magnets for these kinds of weather systems. Victor set the tone in the room with a sentence about activation that made federal grants consider us. After, he told Noah he'd loved his work on the Pier 47 promenade, the curve of the benches, the way shadows behaved. Noah told me that night, measuring pasta with that pretend casualness we reserve for temptations we've already scheduled. He talks like a client who thinks they're a city, Noah said, then added softer. He noticed the shadows. The other force in this story was Patrick, a reporter who covered city government with the greed of a historian and the eyebrows of a detective. He liked Noah because Noah explained things without making him feel graded. He liked me because I returned calls on Sundays. He liked everyone else because it made better sentences. He showed up at my desk with a question about a variance and left a joke about my tie that landed like a reconnaissance beacon. Rezoning hearings make villains out of people who would have made fine ancestors. Seniors feared shadow, renters feared rent, business owners feared customers with strollers. The pastor wanted parking as proof of grace. The environmentalists wanted a wetland to pretend a city remembers a marsh. Victor smiled at all of them like a translation app with cheekbones. He kept offering community benefits the way magicians offer handkerchiefs. I kept reminding him that our district remembers favors longer than names. The intrigue's first kiss happened somewhere it shouldn't have. A lightless corridor behind the committee room where staff escaped to let silence cleanse their mouths. Victor followed me there after a hearing that had inflated opinions like weather balloons. "You handled the pastor," he said, slipping into my radius the way a cat slips into heat. "You handled the 'this is fine' clause," I said, which is our joke for letting developers do the thing they were already going to do. He touched the knot of my tie, a rehearsed intimacy lobbyists water like plants. "We could draft in a way that makes both of us look like we chose each other," he murmured, and the part of me that likes verbs over nouns leaned. He kissed me like he was fixing a dimmer. I kissed back for the length of a mistake you can still file under curiosity. We broke when the fire door sighed, and a janitor pushed a cart past us with the mercy of someone who's seen the city practice. I told Noah because secrecy turns our bed into a corridor. He listened over wine like a man calibrating loads. "Do you want him?" he asked. "I want the version of me he imagines in his meetings," I said. Noah smiled then, not kind, not unkind. "Then don't bring that man home," he said. He kissed me with the gentleness we reserve for people we refuse to audition for. We tried to add a fourth rule in pencil. If you're going to cross a line, text before your feet do. It held for a week. Patrick asked me to coffee as a friend, which means as a headline with feelings. He'd heard rumors about an expedited lane for Hemley's demolition permits that sounded like our office had taught a form how to lie. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "I am your diet." I said, "City Hall needs more fiber," and we both laughed because we like people who let us write better. Afterward, on the sidewalk, he touched my sleeve the way reporters do when they want a quote and know your threshold. "Does Noah know you carry this much pressure in your shoulders?" he asked. "He's the architect," I said. "He knows where things sag." Patrick looked at me like he was choosing which drawer to keep that in. He did not kiss me. Not then. Victor changed tactics. He stopped being charming and started being useful. "We can put 20% aside for below market if we can add 2 floors," he said, sliding a draft with cloudy numbers. "We can promise a daycare if you promise not to make news about setbacks." He sent color renderings where the river looked like someone had explained mercy to it. He offered a ground floor lease at cost to a community market if our office would call the community board and remind them they liked us. He invited Noah to a design meeting with Hemley's internal team and kept his hand on the back of Noah's chair long enough for me to consider misplacing a variance. The second kiss with Victor took place in the service elevator because elevators are where the city admits it's human. "I can save people time," he said. "That's all development is, editing distance." He pressed me against the panel and kissed me with the confidence of someone who believes carbon emissions are a personal lifestyle preference. I let him and hated my family's habit of rewarding competence with access. When the elevator opened, the deputy controller stared through us with the fury of a man who'd been forgotten by his own accounting. Noah noticed press clippings on our fridge and knew they were at the wrong angle. He found me one night in the kitchen writing speaking points on a legal pad like it was 1997. "You're writing speeches to yourself," he said gently. I told him about the second kiss. His face did the thing it does when he sees a beautiful building that won't last, admiration and grief in the same muscle. "Do you want to lose?" he asked. "Are we still talking about the vote?" I said. He shook his head and kissed me because he didn't trust sentences anymore. Patrick called me at 11 with a tone men use when they're going to hurt you kindly. "Off the record, I have emails," he said. "Hemley suggested your office had a way around a procurement clause and your boss suggested you were the way." I pictured my inbox like a crime scene. "Come to the office," I said. "Bring screenshots and you're stubborn." He arrived with both, plus a face that had learned to be careful around me. He laid his laptop on my desk like an altar. We read subject lines that tried to pretend they were calendar entries. "If this is true," he said, "you're going to make my decade and ruin your weekends." He touched my wrist, brief, clinical, like he was checking a pulse. "Does Noah know?" he asked softly. "He knows more than I've earned," I said, and his mouth did something like pity. We broke the story before it broke us. I wrote a statement with verbs that could stand trial. Our council member went on camera with a face that said disappointment pays rent, and said we would withdraw our support until the process stopped acting like a synonym for greed. The press conference happened in a room whose fluorescent lights forgave nothing. Victor took a position 10 feet from me and didn't make eye contact with anyone who might have been a person. When it ended, after reporters had broken their tripods and everyone had folded their anger back into backpacks, he found me in the corridor and made his mouth a weapon again. "You could have texted," he said, neither pleading nor angry, just wounded arrogance. "So could you," I answered, and walked away before I wanted to apologize for being correct. Patrick kissed me in the stairwell the next day, which made me despise him and myself a little less than I thought I would. We were alone, carrying boxes because budget cuts are a form of exercise. He set his box down and looked at me like a man considering the ethics of rain. "We could do this," he said, "or we could wait." The word we hurt in a new place. "Kiss me like a headline you're going to correct," I said, and he did, brief, accurate, a forward we could send later. I told Noah. He set down his pencil and said, "Thank you, then. No more stories without me." The rezoning died incrementally, a mercy nobody clapped for. The bus depot went back to being derelict with better graffiti. Victor took his suit to another zip code and found a different river. He sent me a single-line text. "We don't have to be enemies," which is lobbyist for "remember me when you need something." I responded with a period because punctuation is how you live small. Noah and I added a fourth rule to the card. Don't make intrigue the price of ambition. It sounds like something a consultant would write on a mirror, but it worked at 3 a.m. when the city mistook sirens for lullabies. Patrick moved on to a series about school lunches that made me want to be better at optimism. Sometimes he texts me a righteous sentence. Sometimes I send him a photo of the river misbehaving at sunset. We kept the lights on at City Hall for compromise because someone has to. We watched people speak too long at microphones and found the verbs that let them sit down with dignity. We learned which doors stick and which ones swing into rooms you can live in. At night, in the apartment the pigeons have chosen, Noah still puts his hand on my throat like a seatbelt and asks, "Here," in the tone that says this is our vote. I say yes, like a budget balanced with imperfect love. We kiss before sleep. We don't rehearse breakups. And when the fluorescent lights make our good decisions look like paperwork, we turn them off and let the room decide what a city means when nobody is performing.